Hello folks, just another quick video hopefully. Let's see how long this one goes, I suppose. Yeah, there's a few things in mind. One of them is, well, as I say, I mean, it's only a few weeks ago that it was preached about don't let the devil in the small things, because then they come in the big things. And people can preach that but not realise that in church, I'm talking about generalised church, the devil has been let in all the small things basically. Yeah, whether it's communion, whether it's worship, whether it's whatever. Yeah, the devil's been let in and things are done according to his way rather than according to God's way. And so now, it's not wrong for people to think it's actually his church rather than God's church. Yeah, because the devil's been let in so many things with regards to church. So many things. They do things according to the world. If you do things according to the world, you're doing things according to the devil, because it's his kingdom. Again, that's something that supposedly the leaders of the church understand, but they don't seem to understand. Yeah. Yeah, as I say, it's we seem to be in the same situation as the Jews were in. We seem to be completely blinded, or people in church seem to be completely blinded. Certainly people that are of church, absolutely, completely and totally blinded to the reality and of where they are and what is actually happening. As I say, I mean, the ministers completely understand that words are powerful, but then they will have songs like those songs I've mentioned enough times now. Say it's all about you, Jesus, and say that I put my trust in you alone. Words that are powerful, because it's not about him, and you shouldn't be putting your trust in him alone. That's ridiculous. If you understand Father, Son, Holy Spirit, you wouldn't be thinking that you'll put your trust in him alone, would you? But the problem is that Father, Son, Holy Spirit is not really understood, as that's what we need, because church is all about Jesus. That's why they have songs singing it's all about him, because of the fact that's what church is about, all about him. So, okay. So with that being the case, as I said, for me to go to church, the point of church, for a lot of people, they go to church for the ministry. Well, that's no use to me. Because if the ministry is about programming people to be of church and, to say encouraging things, but never to shout out when there's danger, never to speak out about things that are wrong, then no, there's nothing in that that's for me, obviously, if that's what the ministry is about. And worship, no. When I've got the worship that I've got, nothing at church is going to be anything. I've got a few of the older songs, but hardly any at all in my worship thing. And, that has been growing and growing and growing through the years. As I say, it started off with, hits by worship, then went on to Casting Crowns, for him, then Casting Crowns, and then from Casting Crowns to For King and Country. But with Casting Crowns, it was Third Day, Jeremy Camp, Callum's Call, and a few others where I've got CDs of, but mainly Casting Crowns. Whereas now it's mainly For King and Country, with a few others thrown in. But and that's a lot of stuff there. I've got a lot of praise and worship. A lot. How many songs is in the playlist? I do not know. Quite a few. So, yeah. And so therefore, with the playlist song Windows Media Player, put it on shuffle. And, you don't know what song's coming up. And therefore, beautiful. You're singing songs that you haven't sang for years because they're at the bottom of the playlist that you hardly ever get to. But the shuffle finds that works beautifully. Yeah, you just let God lead and guide, and yeah. Well, so what's left? So, not worship, not ministry. It has to therefore be fellowship. And yeah, I now understand quite completely that I'm never going to get fellowship in church. Not fellowship of worth, because all the time I've been in churches for, many years actually. Some churches, well, not many years, not compared to most people, because most people have been in the same church or similar churches or been in churches together for a good 20-30 years. Not for me, ever. I think the longest I've been in a church was probably about 2 years, and even then I was in and out of that church. Yeah, I just go back occasionally. So the longest I've actually stayed in a church, that may actually be, well, King's Church would have been the one, I suppose, that I stayed in the longest. Yeah, but I suppose, yeah, 2 to 3 years would have been about the longest I stayed in the church. Others would be about a year, 6 months or whatever. But in no church have I ever had fellowship that wasn't shallow. The reason why the fellowship is always going to be shallow is because of the fact that accountability, that's not desired. So people don't really want you to know them. There are parts of their life that they will hide from you because they don't want you to know them. That's never been the case for me. Never been the case for me. I get to know people and I share the worst and the best. The absolute worst and the absolute best. I share everything in between. Why? Because I want accountability. Because I want them to be as open as I'm being. Because that way we can have fellowship, we can have proper fellowship, where we can go a bit deeper. And people don't want it. They just don't want it. When you start sharing, absolute worst and absolute best with them, they don't like it. They get very uncomfortable with that. And certainly when you start asking them, and you start digging a bit deeper into them, they run away. Yeah, they do. They don't like it at all. I can understand it, but as I say, this is where church has always been that way. As I say, because, as I said in the last one, you come out of the world, you come into church, you come out of a harsh world where quite often, most people in church didn't have a great experience of life. They weren't incredibly successful. You'll find quite often the pastors were. Why? Because the pastors, they've been the ones who can afford to go to Bible college. Because obviously it costs money. Same as any other college. I don't think you're going to get a grant to go to Bible college. I could be wrong. Maybe in some countries you will. But mostly in most countries you won't get a grant to go there. So you've got to be paid. So you've got to either be doing well or your family has to be doing well. And that is very, very common for pastors. Is that, that they have done very, very well for themselves in life. But most of the people in church haven't. So that's why the pastors can't really identify with most of the people in the church, because they've never been through what they've been through. I'm not saying all. No, I'm not saying all. Because of course you'll have some pastors who have been on that roller coaster of life themselves. But an awful lot of people in church have never seen ups in their life. They've only seen downs. And so when they come into church, what they want is, they want God's arms around them. They want that bit of comfort. The problem is, what they find is a church that is safe, and a church that is encouraging. Now that seems exactly to be what they need, but the problem is, safe and encouraging is demonic. Because your journey is supposed to be where you are learning about you're learning about Yeshua, you're learning about how to walk according to that. You're learning to be, well, even as the bloke said last Sunday, you're learning to be less of you, more of him. That's a journey, and often quite a difficult journey for a lot of people. But at the end of it, you're in a situation that, well, okay, if you ask most of the people in church, they want to be in a situation where God can use them. They do. The problem is they just don't want to be trained. They just don't want to go through that process to be moulded and shaped so that God can use them. They just want God to do it overnight. They want all of that to be done like healing, where it's done immediately. Yeah, where it's painless. And the problem is, there's no promise of that, and it's actually the opposite way. There's a promise that it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard. And the problem is, for most people, they don't want it to be hard. When they see it hard, they blame the devil for that. And church does that. That's why I said it's complete nonsense to say everything good is of God, everything bad is of you or the devil. That's absolute nonsense. And it doesn't help people, because then when they're going on a journey and they fall, they see that as the devil. They don't see that as God. They don't see that God is allowing you to fall for a reason, and that there's something that God's trying to do by allowing you to fall. They automatically see it purely as a devil, which means they ignore that there's a purpose for it. And they have to then fall again and again and again and again and again, because God is still trying to teach you that thing he's been trying to teach you for years, but you keep on seeing it as a devil. Eventually, God is going to say, right, okay, there's no point me trying to teach you because you will not pay attention. But then, where you're headed? That isn't good, is it? Well, to be honest, I don't think that's ever going to happen, simply because God knows whether you're going to pay attention or not. If you're not, he won't even try and teach you, to be honest. That's more likely to be the case, because he knows exactly whether you're going to pay attention or not. Now, I think it is a case where sometimes God will make efforts to teach you, even if you're not going to pay attention, but that's so that on your day of judgment, you can't say, oh, but you never tried to help me. Because a lot of people will try that. A lot of people in church will, on their day of judgment, be making excuses and accusations against God. Because they never learned how to walk, they're going to be blaming God for that. It isn't God. No. So, yeah. Yeah. As I said, I think it was last night, I know that in the future, in 2 years or whatever, I will get fellowship. And I know that I'm going to get some incredibly beautiful fellowship at that point in time. And, okay. And I won't get it until then. But, again, this is why I've had to really try and speak to God about it. Say, okay. On my walk yesterday, I said to Father, is there any reason at all why I should be going to a church? Any church? Because if the worship is blur, and the ministry is blur, and the chance of fellowship is blur, then what's the point? Because I can't give anything to them because they're not in a position to receive. They can't give anything to me because there's nothing that they have that I can receive. I did think the fellowship was something that I could receive, But it isn't, not if they can't give that. If what they can give is shallow, then no, that's of no use to me at all. Yeah, no use at all. And so, is there anyone that I can have fellowship with at that church where it won't be shallow? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so, because, I've spent 3 hours with one of the people, but then on Sunday, when that person was there on Sunday, he didn't even come over to say hello to me at all on Sunday. And previously, in the days previous, I texted him and he never bothered getting back to me. One point I phoned him, he said he'd phone me back because he was dealing with something, a caravan or something. But then he never bothered getting back to me. Then on Sunday he never bothered speaking to me. So, do I think that there will be fellowship with him in the future? No. Because again, I think there might be, but it would have to be very, very shallow based upon, Do I expect it to go deep? No. Although what I would say is I think he would probably be willing to go deeper than most. But but I say that sort of friendship relationship hit a road bump, I do believe. And again, there's been no communication about what the road bump was. So I just have to leave that with God and say, okay, it is what it is, isn't it? That's the reality. So, there you go. There you go. It is very much a case of being led, be guided, and see what God does. But, it's a shame. It really is. I think it's a shame. It's good to a certain degree because, I can see really where the situation is, because I think I've been slightly deluded in myself, believing that maybe the church was, in a better position, certainly with regards to fellowship, than it is. But that's the point, is how can you have deep fellowship if the people of the church don't understand how to deal with offence, if they don't understand what forgiveness is all about, and if they're lacking understanding in all these things, how are you going to go deep in relationship with these people? Because when you go deep, unfortunately, you are going to step on things, and that person's going to be offended occasionally by you. But if they don't know how to deal with offence, relationship over. Then straight away, gone. Not only relationship with them for yourself is over, but they're going to go talking to other people. Oh, don't go deep with this person because he steps on your feelings and stuff like that. And so going deep with anyone else is over because of the way church is. So we have to people have to know how to deal with all of the things you deal with, but from a God point of view, in His will, His way, according to His nature, for people to have trust in each other to be able to go deep. Because, one point is, there is no point at all trusting each other. Like as I said earlier, when I get to know someone and I share worst and best of me, I'm not trusting that person. I'm not trusting that person won't go around and share all that stuff with other people. I'm trusting in God. Now again, is it because I'm some super blinky human that I'm some wonderful Christian? No, I'm not even a Christian. So I can't be a wonderful Christian when I'm not even a Christian. What it is, as I said earlier, is because of who I am and how I am, and because I really don't care if people choose to reject me. And because in most of my walk, my relationship has been with God, so my trust is in Him, because I never had that sort of fellowship with other people. So my trust was developed in God before it was with people. I had to add that because people, oh, he thinks he's so much better than we are. No, but clearly I do know a damn sight more than most. Because I know not to jump when something says and think about the worst. Ask the person, when you said that, what did you mean? Yeah, when you said about trusting God, did you mean that you think you're better than us? Or is there a reason why you trust God more than you trust people? But people don't do that. They just jump. And so, yeah. But as I say, that's the thing. Yeah, now I've come to a better understanding of all that stuff. I know more what the situation is. And okay. Yeah. Now, I wish you well. I know certainly if you are in church, it's going to be incredibly difficult. I've said this before. Go back to videos I did in July. And I was talking about the fact of, that I've come to this position of going sort of from Christianity to being a son of God. But I didn't have people in the church that I had to deal with. So if you're off church, coming through that into a relationship with Father is going to be blinking difficult. I understand that. To come from that into anything other than that is going to be blinking difficult. Because you'll have all these people saying, oh, but I don't think that's of God. It sounds too challenging. It sounds too much that you've got to actually do something. It can't be God then, can it? Because we're here doing absolutely nothing. And God is still blessing us. So this is the way God wants us to be. Well, no, it isn't. But as I say, this is why I truly hope that if I'm correct in what God's going to do, that I really do hope, and for the sake of the people, not to punish them, but for the sake of them, that God takes his presence completely away from these churches. All of them. They've been on a sort of spiritual life support machine for years. I pray that God turns them all off. Because the people in those churches, they need to realise where they are. And they need to run to what God is doing. They're not going to do that all the while there's drip, drip, drip blessings. Because that's all you're getting. You're not getting full blessing. You're only getting drip, drip, drip blessings. That's because of where you are. So, yeah. Anyway. I'm going to leave you to it. I wish you well. I really do. And I hope you manage to get to your destination that you're supposed to get to. God bless. Bye-bye.